I'm sorry that I don't speak Russian very well, but I'm still trying to get used to my amp, so I'm just going to warm up a little bit. You guys can check it out. to one of the backing tracks, and then I'll answer the questions, and we'll take it from there.
Сейчас значит, немножко поиграю, потом попросим.
really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thank you to Alex and his company and ESP. And it's just great to be here. Thank you very much.
Алекс и компания ESP, и очень хорошо быть здесь.
Say whatever you want to say to me. The thing that I want to talk about a little bit is just a couple of concepts that I use for playing fast mostly. And the first thing is, a lot of you probably noticed that I use my first finger to sort of clamp down on two or more strings.
Ну, как хочется остановиться на некоторых своих приемах и так называемых ликах, которые он употребляет в своей игре, очень много, и о которых его постоянно спрашивают разные гитаристы. Но первое, на чем он хочет остановиться, это, может быть, многим внимание, что он очень много употребляет свой указательный палец, который зажимает 2 или 3 струны. Ну, в общем, это прием для быстрой игры, как бы, продолжим тему.
And, oh yeah, originally I had handout sheets that we weren't able to make copies of, but maybe whoever comes to the signing tomorrow, I can have them ready by then. I apologize. So here's one of the things that the first thing that I could ever probably play on the guitar that was impressed my friends was just a concept that goes like this. So I'm playing an upstroke and a downstroke on 2 separate strings, then a pull off. And that leads to a lot of other licks that, a lot of other concepts that I end up using in my playing all the time. So I'll just play it real slow and then you can see how easy it is to play really fast. Basic lick, and then I got comfortable with that and started using another finger to bar as well. Another finger to do the same thing. So I don't know if you want to say that.
Значит, первое, что поражало очень многих коллег Грега, когда он только начинал играть, это вот такой прием, когда он значит, зажимает вот указательным пальцем вторым 2 струны и значит, употребляет один удар вниз, затем пальцем, затем вверх, и, ну, вы видите этот прием, да?
So it's almost like you want it to sound like a two-handed lick. So you want it to sound like
То есть это звучит так, как будто 2 руками вообще.
very smooth. The next thing I stumbled across was playing arpeggios doing the same exact technique, because I noticed a lot of guitar players would use so I use that technique to play like that.
Но следующим этапом было переложение, применение этого приема к известному приему, который многие гитаристы, я честно показал, да, там, когда пальцы вот так стоят. То есть с помощью вот зажима одним пальцем указать.
He could be saying anything right now. So anyway, so that's just some of the concepts. The other concept, and that led to some cool things. Anybody who ever wants to get into it, if I took that shape, move it an octave lower, I was just able to get a lot of cool stuff.
Ну вот что, друзья, с помощью этого приема можно сделать.
I didn't say that.
Он никто не говорит, он просто делал.
So I'll talk a little bit more about some boring stuff of mine, and then I'll play to another song. Well, actually, we'll take the questions first. The other thing that I do that's weird that people ask me about all the time is doing hammer-ons to strings that were not previously fretted.
Вот еще один прием, о котором постоянно спрашивают, это вот hammer on, ну, известный, да, гитарный прием. Я правильно сказал?
So I use my second finger a lot on my right hand for up picks, up strokes.
И он употребляет третий палец для удара снизу.
Right. So like and also getting, combining that with the previous idea of barn, you can play. So,
да, он соединил вот два приема, первый и второй вместе, того, что может это сделать.
Sure. Questions? So yeah, I'm playing in the original example for the hammer-ons from nowhere was I'm just playing a chord shape, in this case A major, and I'm playing an upstroke on the B string, a downstroke on the G string, and then hammering with my third finger. It's pretty easy, it just feels uncomfortable at first. You can change the shape to whatever you want. I'm not really that good, so. And there's a lot of shapes. I was using an open string.
То же самое с открытыми струнами.
Actually, you can really, it almost sounds like finger picking, so you can pretend that you, I can't finger pick very well, so when people ask if I can finger pick, that's what I usually do.
Очень трудно все это делать, когда вот вас спрашивают о том, что помедленнее.
So I'll take some questions now if you guys want to.
Вопрос есть? Про что? Какой вот это? Can you explain why you have this rubber thing?
Tell them I was hoping he didn't notice it, but I will explain.
Ну, лучше никто не заметит. Сейчас объяснит.
It's for two-handed licks. I saw Jason Becker do it back in when I was recording for Shrapnel Records, and it just helps keep some of the strings quiet, especially for two-handed licks. But I do a lot of the. So it keeps it quiet, otherwise it sounds sloppy. It's not too different.
Но он перенял этот прием у Джейси Бек.
Jason Becker.
Да. Вот вы этот человек перенял. И это помогает при определенной при такой технике игры, помогает немножко играть потише, потому что иначе все так звенит, как в колонке.
Still sloppy. I've always done that. I don't know where that. No, I've always done that. I don't know why. I don't know where that came from. But all it is really just sliding like that. But there's a way. It's hard for people to do it sometimes because if you don't do it, just right, it sounds like it's got to sound like the original note. I don't know exactly, but that's all I'm doing is just sliding.
So your strings are very low, right?
Yeah, they're pretty low.
Why do you do that?
Because it's easy. I remember that. That's right.
Can you talk a little on your strings and picks?
Picks and strings. I still picks. I'm still not sure what I like.
Он еще до сих пор пока не уверен, вообще, какие медиаторы он любит больше всего.
It changes every day. Sometimes
Все время изменяется. Там, его
Yeah.
пристрастие.
Sometimes medium, sometimes heavies.
Иногда средний, иногда более жесткий.
Yeah, strings are always D'Addario 10 gauge strings.
Струны средний D'Addario десятка, короче.
D'Addario fans, yeah.
He plays solo from 1989. I don't know which one.
I don't know. Like what? I don't know what all my solos sound the same, so anything I play should sound like that.
Все соло одинаковые, поэтому какая разница?
I don't know, I can just play, you know, but just play.
Are you gonna release a new video lessons?
Yes, I'm working on those right now, and I'm hoping.
Да, он сейчас работает над этим.
Yeah, I think that,
So when the release gonna?
I'm hoping by the middle of the summer.
В середине лета
Be done. There's going to be different versions. There's going to be one on just technique and one on improvisation probably.
Будут
And
разные версии. Одна по поводу техники, другая школа по поводу импровизации.
yeah,
They want you to play.
just play again. Same licks over and over. Same stuff over and over again.
Одно и то же свои.
Okay, I'm going to play another song and then we'll do some more questions.
Сейчас нас сыграет еще одну песню с плейбэком.
you know. But also playing a half step above the key and coming back to it. That's what Larry Carlton does it a lot.
Потом, например, такой правильный прием, он уходит на полтона выше тональности, затем возвращается обратно.
Yeah, you know, just things like It doesn't sound as good when you don't have music, you know. So.
Ну, без музыки это так невозможно. What else inspires you besides music?
Definitely anything, you know, places, you know, just if I'm in a certain place that, you know, I can be inspired. A movie can inspire me. Obviously, you know, beautiful women, that's a big inspiration sometimes. So, but a lot of times it's just hearing a groove. A lot of times I'll hear like a pop song, and it will give me an idea for an instrumental song. Even something. I listen to a lot of mainstream music that's not instrumental at all, or not even complicated. And I get probably more ideas from that than I do, you know, listening to like Alan Aldworth or something. I'd almost rather watch MTV all day and try to hear some kind of cool groove or something and use it. Try to make a more intellectual version of that idea.
Ну, Грега вдохновляет самые разные вещи, какие-то места, в которых он не бывал, кинофильмы, естественно, красивые женщины, как всякого нормального человека. И потом он может найти вдохновение в самых неожиданных вещах, как, допустим, он привел пример, что он слушает какую-то поп-песню, и там неожиданно какой-то хороший грув, и это может стать идеей для какой-то его новой композиции, несомненно, на более интеллектуальном, высоком интеллектуальном уровне, чем
the barring technique, and then using the hammer-on from nowhere.
Вот он привел такую комбинацию вот этой техники баррес с хаммерингом там на нижних струнах.
Right, so I can't pick very well, so these hammer-ons help me out when it comes to big intervals if I want to play. Even though, like, I'll practice taking a triad. Yeah, and just playing low notes that are diatonic to it, or you know, whatever comes to mind. So it's really a lot of the same stuff. A lot of it's based on barring. So it's like it's partly arpeggios. The arpeggio gives the color, you know, for. But then instead of just playing a straight arpeggio, I'll try to make it interesting by adding some diatonic notes in, you know, on certain strings.
И затем не просто играет арпеджио, там, как если хочет кто-то сделать какую-нибудь песню, употребляет диатонические ноты еще между.
The two-handed wide interval stuff is a lot of it's based on hammering with the left hand first again. So it's like hammer on.
Двухножная игра в значительной степени базируется опять же на хаммере.
Yeah, with the left hand, and then. It sounds cool, but it's not. It's really easy. So.
Звучит здорово, а на самом деле довольно просто.
or slow version, but it's all based on.
Более медленная версия, все это зиждется на...
Yeah, most of the two-handed stuff that I do is based on the left hand hitting the strings first, which is different than.
В основном все это базируется на том, что левая рука сначала ударяет левая рука, потом уже правая.
Right.
Все комбинации.
That's where you get,
Левый ведущий.
You guys are way too nice.
How about blues?
Yeah. I pretty much play standard, same licks that most people play. Same, boring stuff. It's my favorite note.
Ну, в принципе, Грег сказал, что он играет все стандарты, которые играют весь мир.
Like who? Who is that? No, I really can't. I can't play like that. I'm not good at it. I can fake, there's the double stop stuff. But he has his own sound, and no, I've never heard anybody really sound like that. It's great. Yeah, I can do this though. That's supposed to.
В большинстве случаев он не использует, естественно, полные аккорды, это так сказать, частичные. Ну, на двух четырех строк.
I didn't know I was back there. I don't know. It depends. Sometimes trying to think of a good example. A lot of times rhythm is really just a couple of notes. A lot of my rhythms are just like,
Порой ритм это просто пару нот.
Kind of use the same techniques in a lot of rhythms that I do otherwise. Some of the generic funk,
Ну, такой базовый фанковый грувчик.
I don't really, nothing special about my rhythm playing.
Ничего особенного. Правда, он сказал, что он употребляет ту же самую технику, которую он показывал, и в аккомпанементе. Have you ever transcribed your solo?
No.
Нет.
I can't. People like that do it for me. And then I call them and ask for it so I can relearn it myself. Okay.
Не просите его, чтобы он сам себя выучил.
Yeah, when he gets done with my song, I'd like him to send it to me so I can.
Он хочет, чтобы ты, когда снимешь соло, прислал ему.
Yeah, I'm going to play just to the solo section of the first song off my last album. I just have the solo section looped over and over again. It's you can hear it and just
сыграет сейчас
comment on it.
сольный эпизод с песней со своего последнего альбома.
that song. Cool. Something like that. My memory is so bad.
Ничего не помню, потому что наиграл в свое время.
We got off the 5 is we have that
Какая-то песня, которая пытается.
oh, there's a
Thank you.